They call him Strelok, a name that evokes both awe and dread among stalkers who gather around campfires to share rumors in hushed tones. He is the one who ventured where others dared not tread, the anomaly-battered warrior who reached Chernobyl's core and emerged alive. He's also the Marked One, a man who once bore a directive etched into a device on his wrist: kill Strelok. This contradiction lies at the heart of his story, but to truly grasp the breadth of who Strelok is, you must travel back to the Zone's earliest days, to a time where only the boldest or most desperate souls crossed the perimeter fences. At first, he was simply another treasure seeker, scrounging for artifacts to hawk for unscrupulous traders. Over time, though, he realized the Zone contained secrets far more significant than any monetary fortune. Every emission, every psychic anomaly, every mutant horde was another hint that this bizarre territory hid a deeper purpose, and Strelok was determined to uncover it. The almost 4% of you who have subscribed, thank you so much. The other 96% of you, do better. When the Zone emerged after the second explosion at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, only a handful of explorers ventured inside. They were called Stalkers, a term that captured both their daring and the ominous hush that fell whenever they spoke of what they witnessed. Among them was a young man who took on the handle Strelok, translating to shooter or rifleman. He became known for his calm under fire, his almost preternatural ability to dodge anomalies, and his relentless hunger for knowledge. In these early years, he forged alliances with two others who shared his vision, Fang and Ghost. They pooled their resources, exploring half-collapsed laboratories and picking through the husks of deserted military installations. They mapped out radiation hotspots and tracked the daily fluctuations of anomaly clusters. Many stalkers thought them insane. Why risk your life for intangible knowledge when you could scoop up an artifact or two and make a tidy profit? For Strock, it wasn't that simple. Artifacts were fleeting trinkets, money would come and go, but the Zone's mysteries tugged at him incessantly. It was said that at the heart of the Zone lay something beyond comprehension. Some claimed it was the Wish Granter. Others spoke of a monstrous intelligence orchestrating every anomaly. Strelok couldn't ignore these whispers, and so he and his comrades delved deeper, far beyond safer territories patrolled by the novice stalkers. Fate brought them to a hidden stash, a series of detailed maps indicating a subterranean city winding beneath Pripyat. This was a revelation, for it offered a way around the Brain Scorcher, a psychic barrier near the center of the Zone that rendered most explorers into zombified husks. The Brain Scorcher had repelled wave after wave of stalkers who hoped to reach the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Yet Strelok's group believed they could skirt it by moving through these underground passages. They embarked on what they intended to be a triumphant raid, carrying advanced gear, a keen sense of the terrain, and hearts brimming with optimism. But the Zone is notoriously unforgiving. They managed to reach the sarcophagus beneath the plant itself, only to be halted by a code-locked door. Behind it, something impossible stirred, as if the Zone recognized intruders knocking on its inner sanctum. Unaware, they had drawn the ire of a colossal mind known as the C-Consciousness. Strelok, Fang, and Ghost retreated. The Zone retaliated with a massive emission. This wave of destructive psychic energy ripped through concrete and flesh alike, and Strelok was hit hardest. His allies managed to drag his broken body away to a reclusive medic known as the Doctor, who nursed him at the edge of death. A swirling blur of nightmares flooded Strelok's mind. He had had glimpses of truths no one was meant to see, fragments of the nightmares that formed the Zone's foundations. At some point, how or when exactly even Strelok couldn't recall, he fell into the Zone's shadowy system of death trucks. These vehicles transported catatonic victims of psychic attacks to undisclosed locations, sometimes to be experimented upon or cast aside like broken dolls. During one ill-fated journey, the truck carrying Strelok crashed. By coincidence or by design, he was found in the wreckage by an unknown stalker who brought him to Sidorovich, the notorious black market trader who operated out of a cramped bunker in the cordon. When Strelok finally came to, he had no memory of his name or how he'd wound up in the truck. All he had was a cryptic label on his arm, Stalker, and a single directive scrawled into a PDA: kill Strelok. Thus was born the Marked One. It was a stark moment of irony, for he had become his own target. With no recollection of his former life, he blindly followed the only lead he had: find and kill this mysterious Strelok. But the more he ventured across the zone, cutting deals, fighting bandits, and creeping through anomalies, the more fragments of his identity surfaced. Contacts spoke of a brilliant stalker who had nearly cracked the zone's central mystery, a man with a small but loyal team who had outwitted the Brain Scorcher. Gradually, he stumbled across the remains of Ghost in Lab X-16, confronted horrifying mutated sight creatures, and tracked down the old doctor in the depths of the Agriprom's underground maze. Each clue peeled back another layer of the Marked One's amnesia, until the day he comprehended the truth. He was Strelok. The entire mission to kill Strelok was the Zone's twisted way of keeping him from ever recalling his near discovery of the C consciousness. Motivated by a mixture of revenge and an instinctual need to finish what he had started, Strelok set about dismantling the Brain Scorcher. He carved a path through zombie-infested labs, outmaneuvered Monolith zealots, and finally switched off the infamous psychic emitter. With that obstacle gone, the route to Pripyat and the Chernobyl NPP lay wide open. Yet the journey was anything but simple. The Monolith faction, fanatically devoted to an unseen power within the sarcophagus, barraged him from rooftops, from alleyways, and from the shadows. Military forces also posed a threat, hoping to stake their own claims in the newly accessible territories. Dogged and determined, Strelok fought on, forging alliances with other elite stalkers who recognized an unstoppable will when they saw one. At last, amid swirling radiation and echoing gunfire, he stood in the corridors of Reactor Number 4, ignoring the haunting calls of the Wish-Granter that promised to fulfill any desire. With Fang's special decoder in hand, he opened the locked door that had stymied him before. Beyond it, in a hidden chamber, he confronted a holographic figure who revealed the existence of the C consciousness, an experiment in psychic unification spliced from human minds that had inadvertently birthed the Zone. The hologram demanded his allegiance: join us or face annihilation. Strelok, outraged by the manipulations and lies, refused to be a pawn. He fired bullets into the life support pod sustaining the C consciousness. Sparks flew, pods cracked, and the Zone's omnipotent puppet master reeled in agony. In that moment, he struck a blow at the very heart of the Zone's labyrinth of secrets. Emerging from the sarcophagus, Strelok faced a shattered sky and a battered soul. He had undone something monumental, though whether he'd saved or doomed the Zone remained uncertain. Even he, the once fearless, was left to question the morality of his actions. He was quoted saying, "I don't know whether I was right or wrong. I guess I'll never know. But I made it, and I guess I should be thankful for that." If you rewind time to the events of Stalker, Clear Sky, Strelok looks much different, an antagonist in the eyes of the mercenary S.T.A.L.K.E.R, forced to work for the secretive Clear Sky faction. Determined to reach the center of the Zone, he inadvertently triggered devastating emissions. For Lebedev and his beleaguered researchers, Strelok's unwavering quest spelled disaster. They believed that his repeated intrusions near the C consciousness threatened the Zone's stability. Pursued relentlessly, he sabotaged bridges, orchestrated ambushes, and eluded S.T.A.L.K.E.R at nearly every turn. In those days, Strelok wasn't a malicious villain. He was a driven explorer who believed the truth at the Zone's core could be harnessed to benefit all. Yet, ironically, his dogged efforts to circumvent the Brain Scorcher unleashed unimaginable psychic backlash, culminating in the cataclysmic third emission that slaughtered or brainwashed most of Clear Sky's ranks. The final twist was that Strelok himself fell victim to the emission, ultimately deposited into a death truck that would deliver him to his next chapter, where he awoke in the Marked One's blank slate. In Call of Pripyat, Strelok maintains a lower profile. Early on, he is absent, though tidbits surface in the form of stashed notes and an abandoned SGI-5K rifle. Through these breadcrumbs, the player realizes that Strock still prowls the Zone, a tireless wanderer searching for ways to understand or even redeem it. Finally, he appears just as another deadly emission looms. His experience with the Zone's psychic phenomena sets him apart from conventional stalkers and soldiers. Striking an uneasy accord with the military, he offers intelligence that might enable them to contain or destroy the Zone. Even he does not claim to know which outcome is more just. The entire region sits on a knife's edge. Strelok's presence during the evacuation from Pripyat underscores his moral complexity. He stands side by side with the men who he might have once called enemies, cutting through hordes of zombified stalkers while the sky churns with radiation-charged thunderheads. If the player has found and returned certain documents detailing Strelok's revelations, he can use them to facilitate a more successful evacuation. The conclusion for Strelok varies. In some outcomes, he survives to become an advisor for further zone research. In others, he is lost forever, a final casualty of the place he risked everything to comprehend. Early design leaks suggested that Strelok would once again take center stage in Stalker 2, however the later announcements replaced him with the new protagonist, Skiff. Nonetheless, the developers made sure to include him in Stalker 2, where he is still an integral part to the story. In his final reckoning, Strelok stands as more than just a character. He is a testament to the Stalker ethos. The zone seduces with half-truths and illusions, punishing those who chase answers too eagerly. Strelok walked that razor's edge repeatedly, time after time, paying with flesh, blood, and the memories of fallen allies. He only knows that he's alive and that the zone endures. He can hold onto an idea. If you are still breathing, there is more to discover. More anomalies to analyze, more cryptic labs to unearth, more illusions to dispel. In that sense, Strelok's journey continues, perhaps echoing in the footsteps of every daring soul who decides to push a little farther into the unknown. Thank you all again for taking the time to watch this video. If you made it here all the way to the end, make sure to drop a like and comment down in the section below. I appreciate you all and stay tuned for the next video. Take care and have a good day.